Call to order the City Council work session for the City of East Grand Forks for Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. It's now 5 o'clock. Would City Clerk please call roll?
Mayor Gander.
Here.
Council President Mark Olstead.
Here.
Council Vice President Tim Maycall.
Here.
Council Members Clarence Vetter.
Here.
Dale Helms.
Here.
Tim Johnson.
Here.
Mark Demers.
Present.
Brian Larson.
Here.
Does term quorum. Number 1, request to hire additional full-time firefighter EMT. I know if Chief Boushee's gone. Mr. Murphy, you want to take that, please?
Yeah. This is just for replacing the two firefighters. We had one move up due to a retirement. So that opened up a firefighter EMT entry-level position, and then we had one in the firefighter EMT entry-level positions as well that has taken a job with another agency. So we have 2 openings. So I'd like to request to move forward with hiring of the two replacements.
May I have any questions?
How many EMTs do we have? You know, offhand?
Not counting the full chief, we have 9 total.
Yeah,
Maybe,
mean, 10 fire, the chief.
yeah, we have 3 firefighter EMTs, 3 assistant chiefs, and then 3 engineers.
They're busy all the time, I know. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay. Move on to request to fix water drainage issues at south entrance at PFW Arena. Reid.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. In the packet, I included some pictures from some of the recent rainfalls we've had at the VFW. Frost heave over the last few years has continued to get worse, and we now are kind of at a negative drain where the water is running back towards and into the building rather than away from the building. There is storm sewer and some catch basins in the parking lot on I'd call it the east side of the arena already, and we're not far away from being able to connect into that. So I asked Mr. Emery what it would look like and take for us to be able to get some storm water drainage in that area. He's included a picture of it. This was one when I first brought it to Mr. Emery just as a brainstorming idea. I was thinking for future years' budgets because it's not something we planned for this year. In talking with him and Miss Anderson about it, because it has the stormwater improvements included in it, it could be qualified as an ARPA or as an expense in the ARPA dollars that are allocated towards the city. So for that reason, I have it in front of you today to see if it's something we can bring out to the contracting community for estimates and see if it's a project we could move forward with still this summer to get the problem resolved. Along with it, I think about, if you look at the line item list, about $55,000 or so of the work would be the storm improvements and the concrete aprons coming off the building to get the right drainage we need. And then the discussion led into, if we're going to do that much work, what does it take to get us to the accessibility requirements in that area and kind of, so to speak, do it right the first time. So that adds in the sidewalks that would lead from that back door of the VFW into the back door of the Blue Line and around to the front door of the Blue Line Arena, as well as adding concrete from the existing concrete pad at the Blue Line overhead door to get down to the new concrete where the catch basin would be installed. So all said, that estimate is about $75,000 is what Mr. Emery is estimating it to cost.
Anybody have any questions for Reid? Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reid, what is ARPA? Educate me.
Sorry, I should have said that. American Rescue Plan Act. So it's the federal dollars from COVID relief that were given to each city.
So we're well qualified for it.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Vetter.
Thank you, Mr. President. It seems like a lot of money. I'm not saying that we shouldn't fix it, but I'm just wondering if the sales tax passes, how much of this goes in the garbage and we redo it all?
Yeah, certainly. So it maybe a little bit of a complex answer to that question, Mr. Vetter. Based on the presentation I gave a couple weeks ago at the council meeting, if all we ever completed was phase 1 of that proposal and the plan I kind of briefed the council on a few weeks ago, and all that we had for funding was essentially sales tax dollars, that work does not build an addition to connect these 2 buildings. So potentially all of this stays in place. Where it becomes more complex is if we fundraise to the goal that we've talked about, fundraising dollars being maybe from that 4 to 8 million in our $8 million goal range, that's where the plan starts to look at having the money available to build that addition that connects the two buildings. And certainly, if we're going to build that addition and connect the two buildings, all of this would get torn out. And that's absolutely a concern. It's a concern of mine too. The difficulty I see in that is we're faced with an issue today that we, I think, need to find a way to fix. And there's a lot of uncertainty in all of that in the addition to connect those two buildings, being that it's based on what our successes in fundraising are and the uncertainty of how long it would take to fundraise for it. That's kind of why I decided to bring it forward now and see where we end up.
Is there enough slope there if we don't put a catch basin in? Is there enough slope to just have it drain out into the parking lot?
I think Mr. Emery would be better to answer that in an engineer's phrase, right? But we had that discussion today. If all we did was slope it back and put a new curb and gutter in, there's still potential that really where the catch basin would be is already a naturally existing low spot. You go there any time in the summer months now, it's kind of gravel meets old beat up asphalt, and water sits there as it is. And I think, in talking with him, I think he feels that way too, that water would just sit there. It sit in that, essentially in that low spot where the curb and gutter and the gravel run down from the Blue Line Arena meet right at that spot between the two arenas where the catch basin is proposed to be put in.
I'm still thinking, what if we can do it with just regrading that whole area, and if that's going to save us any money.
Anything else, sir? Did you have something, Mr. Riopelle?
In a perfect world, we'd be probably 4 to 5 years off for phase 2.
I think that's probably best case scenario.
That's best case scenario.
Yeah.
So this would be here for at least 4 to 5 years if we fundraise what we're looking at doing.
Yeah.
So
that's assuming we're as successful in fundraising as we're hoping to be.
But too, I think we could look at and ask them that question if we can get a slope there and it's going to work. Maybe we could do that as a temporary fix. That might not be as much, but I'm sure it's going to be half this price.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, I went by there today and it is really flat in there. I wondered if maybe there would be room to mud jack by the building, but it's exactly flush already with the floor of the arena. And so there's no way to raise it toward, from the building in a way. And it really, that whole thing is a spongy mess. And I do think whatever we can do to dry it up, if engineering-wise there is a way to grade it out, that'd be great. But I would be on board with, if not, that we go ahead with this solution. I know, Reid, you mentioned in an email to me around flood time when it was coming in how you were trying to stay ahead of it to prevent mold and health hazard inside that arena. That's really what's at stake here, is the health of our kids and with water and mold and all of that. So if we have 4 or 5 years or more of healthier conditions in there, it's worth it, I think.
Anybody else have anything? I think we can talk to Mr. Emery and bring that back for next week and then have the discussion.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Updates on Grand Rides, bike share, and sponsor request.
Okay, so bringing this back from I think it was probably a March work session. A couple of the follow-ups from that discussion at that time were to see if there were any potential DOT funds available for something like this. Miss Ellis checked into that. Really, there are not any. I think it was suggested at that meeting, could a multi-year grant request be made? And I think the direction from the answer we got from the DOT was that specifically if it's not infrastructure that's going to be owned by the city of East Grand Forks or kind of primarily in place in the state of Minnesota, there just aren't going to be dollars available for it. So that avenue is a little bit closed. I have had some discussion with the DNR about its connection to the campground property and whether or not there'd be interest from them in being a sponsor of it. I think there is a little bit of initial interest. I haven't heard a final answer one way or another about if they would like to participate. They're still mulling it over. They do own, of course, through the state park system, bike rental fleets at some of the other parks. This is unique in that sense for them too, that this wouldn't be something that the campground owns, which in all their other cases, it sounds like they do own and rent the bikes out. But they didn't flat out say no. So that is a possibility. Even if they came in and said yes, I didn't get the feeling that they were going to foot an entire $10,000 ask all through the campground. It would be some portion less than that. So bringing it back up to all of you as a group on what our interest level is here. It was mentioned at that meeting in March that the Altru funds could be funds that we have as part of our partnership with Altru. I certainly see this as a nice fit for a program like that. It's one that we know Altru is behind. Obviously, they're as the title sponsor of the bike share program. It's one that they feel is important and support. So it could be good use of those dollars if you all felt that fit. So just bringing it back for discussion and direction from all of you.
You know, I'm glad you brought it back. I think what we need to do is, talk to DNR again, see if they're willing to do anything. If they are, great. But I think using the Altru dollars, 10,000, I think it's great use of it. Bonus if DNR decides to come back in and backfill anything. But I think we should just move forward with it. It's my opinion. Mr. Larson.
Yeah, I would just add that the new occupants of the old Whitey's building is going to be quite a destination in our area, and having more options like this in that general area with bikes is going to make it really popular. So I'm in favor of moving forward with it. Hopefully we can find someone to cost share, but if not, let's do it on our own.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Has
Mr. Vetter?
DDA, have they applied to MnDOT for any funds?
That I don't know. I am not sure.
Whether that would be available for them? This one?
Mr. Gord is right there. So.
In what respect are you thinking?
Well, Ms. Ellis is saying that the only way DOT funds would be available if the city was applying to purchase and own bike share infrastructure of its own. Could the organization that's running this apply on behalf of the city because they're owning the bikes and running it within East Grand Forks?
That is not the EDA that's buying any of that.
I know, it says DDA,
Oh, I'm
whoever
sorry.
DDA is.
We can bring it up.
Oh, I thought you said.
I thought you said DDA.
Earlier,
DDA.
you said EDA. Sorry.
Rob?
We can bring it up to Blue. It just depends on who the sponsoring agency, what state they live in. Sometimes DOT, if it resides in North Dakota, then they don't give funds. They're very particular with transit on what we can spend our MnDOT dollars on because our transit's served in North Dakota. So we're limited on certain things that we can use those funds for.
Okay.
So, but we can mention it to Blue and see if he is willing to look into it. Because there are, MnDOT is very active in the, what they call active transportation or bike ped, those types of things. So it would be worth him contacting our district to see.
Sure.
So.
I think maybe that's a good idea, probably for the yours going forward, but I think this year initially, I think I wouldn't have a problem with using Altru dollars for 10,000.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either. I just don't want to close any doors on possible
I
funding
understand.
sources.
Totally understand.
This is a one-year ask, right? And then they come back each year? Okay.
Anybody else have anything? See none, sir.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Johnson. Second by Riopelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned. Hey, Ron, do you have 1 second?